My dog eats better than your kids." The courtroom went silent, not because people didn't hear her. They heard every word. They heard the laughter in her voice. They heard the arrogance. They heard the cruelty of a rich young woman who had spent her entire life believing money could protect her from consequences. But what Madison Hartwell did not know was that this time, the person watching her from the back row was the one man she always believed would save her. Her father, Mayor Richard Hartwell, a man powerful enough to make scandals disappear. A man rich enough to silence people. A man feared across the city because when the Hartwell family had a problem, that problem usually vanished. But this time, something was different. This time, his own daughter had gone too far. And by the end of this hearing, Judge Judy would expose Madison's privilege, destroy every excuse she tried to hide behind, and force one of the most powerful families in the city to face the truth. This was not just a courtroom case. This was a lesson in dignity, a lesson in accountability, and a reminder that no last name, no bank account, and no political power can erase cruelty when the truth is finally spoken out loud. Rosa Martinez was 38 years old, a single mother of 3 children, and for 2 years she had worked as the live-in nanny for the Hartwell family. She was not rich. She did not come from power. She did not have lawyers waiting on call or a father who could pick up the phone and make problems disappear. What Rosa had was work ethic. She had responsibility, and she had 3 children depending on her. Her kids were 7, 9, and 12. They were good students. They worked hard in school. And every long shift Rosa worked, every humiliation she swallowed, every tired morning she pushed through, she did it for them. She had come to America 15 years earlier, with almost nothing. No wealth, no connections, just hope, determination, and the belief that if she worked hard enough, one day she could give her children a better life. When she got the job with the Hartwell family, it seemed like a step toward that dream. The pay was good. The position included housing in the family's guest house. And for Rosa, who was trying to save money to one day open a small cleaning business, it looked like an opportunity. But inside that mansion, behind the perfect gates and polished floors, Rosa learned very quickly that money does not always come with class. Madison Hartwell was 24 years old. She had never held a real job. She lived in a wing of her father's mansion, drove a luxury car bought with her father's money, wore designer clothing, and spent her days shopping, attending brunches, and posting photos online as if her life was something she had earned. She treated workers like they were invisible. She spoke to Rosa like Rosa was beneath her. And for 2 years, Rosa endured it, not because she was weak, because she had children to feed. But then came the Sunday brunch. Madison had invited 12 of her wealthy friends to the family mansion. Young women just like her. Expensive clothes, expensive phones, expensive smiles, and no understanding of what it meant to work for anything. Rosa was on duty that morning, caring for the children and handling household tasks. She moved quietly through the house, doing her job with the professionalism she had always shown. At one point, one of Madison's friends complained that the help was too visible and suggested Rosa should use the back entrance instead of walking through the main parts of the house. Madison laughed. Then, in front of everyone, she told Rosa to stay in the kitchen with the other servants. Rosa said nothing. She simply nodded and continued working. But the worst moment had not happened yet. About an hour later, Rosa came out of the kitchen holding one of Madison's children who needed attention. She calmly asked Madison what she wanted prepared for the children's lunch. That was when Madison looked Rosa up and down. And with her friends watching, with phones out, with laughter already waiting at the table, she said the words that would follow her into court. "My dog eats better than your kids ever will. Maybe that's why you're desperate enough to work here. At least Prada has standards." Prada was Madison's French bulldog, a dog with designer outfits, its own social media account, and more luxury than many working families ever see. The table erupted in laughter. Rosa stood there, holding a child in her arms, while a room full of wealthy strangers laughed at her children. The camera captured her face. The shock, the pain, the humiliation. But Madison was not finished. She told Rosa to feed the children whatever and keep them quiet, because important people were present. Rosa did not scream. She did not argue. She did not give Madison the satisfaction of seeing her break. She took the child back to the kitchen and finished her work. But later that night, after the children were asleep, Rosa knocked on Madison's door and asked to speak privately. She told Madison calmly that the comment about her children was cruel. She said she expected to be treated with basic human dignity while working in that house. Madison's response was immediate. She fired Rosa on the spot. No notice, no final paycheck, no severance, just an order to leave the guest house by morning. When Rosa asked about the wages she was owed for her final 2 weeks of work, Madison laughed and told her to consider it payment for the lesson she had just learned about knowing her place. That night, Rosa left the Hartwell mansion with her belongings packed in trash bags. But unlike the other nannies before her, Rosa did not take hush money. She did not disappear. She did not let power silence her. She filed a lawsuit for unpaid wages, wrongful termination, and emotional distress. Then the video went public. One of Madison's own brunch guests had recorded the moment and posted it online with a caption exposing how the wealthy really treat working people. Within hours, the clip spread everywhere. People saw Madison's face, they heard her words, they saw Rosa's humiliation. And suddenly, this was no longer just a private family scandal. It became a national outrage. The Hartwell name was already controversial. Mayor Richard Hartwell was under investigation for corruption and contract fraud. For years, people had accused him of using power and influence to protect his family and benefit his own interests. But nothing had damaged him like this. Because this was not a rumor, this was not politics, this was his daughter on camera, humiliating a working mother and insulting her children. And now, the case had landed in Judge Judy's courtroom. Rosa arrived early. She wore simple, clean clothes and carried a folder filled with evidence. Her employment contract, her unpaid work hours, text messages and references from past employers. She looked nervous, but she also looked determined. Madison arrived 15 minutes late. She walked in wearing designer everything. Her handbag cost more than Rosa's monthly rent. Her shoes were worth thousands. Jewelry flashed under the courtroom lights. Her hair and makeup were flawless, but her attitude was ugly. She sat down without acknowledging Rosa. She rolled her eyes. She checked her nails, and Judge Judy saw all of it. Judge Judy had seen arrogance before. She had seen entitlement before. But Madison Hartwell carried herself as if the courtroom itself was beneath her. Judge Judy looked down at the file, then directly at Madison. "Ms. Hartwell, you are being sued by your former employee for unpaid wages, emotional distress, and wrongful termination. Do you believe you owe Ms. Martinez this money?" Madison leaned back with a bored expression. "Your Honor, this whole thing is ridiculous. Rosa was extremely overpaid for basically babysitting sometimes. We were generous to her. Honestly, she should be grateful." The word grateful seemed to hang in the courtroom. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. Babysitting sometimes? According to this contract, Ms. Martinez worked 60-hour weeks as a live-in nanny. That is not occasional babysitting. That is full-time employment. Madison shrugged. She lived in our guest house rent-free. That counts for something. Most people would be thrilled to live in a neighborhood like ours. Judge Judy leaned forward. "Did you fire Ms. Martinez?" "Yes," Madison said without hesitation. She was creating drama. She was always complaining, always acting like she was too good for the job. We gave her an opportunity, and she threw it away. Judge Judy turned to Rosa. "Ms. Martinez, tell me what happened." Rosa took a breath. "Your Honor, I worked for the Hartwell family for 2 years. I cared for Miss Hartwell's children and managed the household schedule. On April 15th, she hosted a brunch. In front of her guests, she made a cruel comment about my children. Later that evening, I respectfully told her I expected basic dignity in the workplace. She fired me and refused to pay what she owed me." Judge Judy's expression became colder. "What exactly did she say about your children?" Before Rosa could answer, Madison interrupted. "Oh God, not this again. It was a joke. Everyone keeps taking it out of context." Judge Judy's voice snapped through the courtroom. "Ms. Hartwell, I am speaking to the plaintiff. Interrupt again, and you will not like what happens next." Madison went quiet. Judge Judy looked back at Rosa. "Ms. Martinez, what did she say?" Rosa's voice remained steady, but the pain behind it was clear. She said, "My dog eats better than your kids ever will. Maybe that's why you're desperate enough to work here. At least Prada has standards." She said it in front of everyone, Your Honor. She compared my children to her dog. The courtroom reacted immediately. Gasps, whispers, disbelief. Judge Judy raised her hand and the room fell silent. "Ms. Hartwell, did you say that?" Madison rolled her eyes. "Yes, but it was a joke. It was rich people humor. My friends understood it." Rosa just took it personally because she isn't used to that kind of social environment. Judge Judy slowly removed her glasses. The courtroom knew what that meant. Rich people humor, she repeated. Explain to me what is funny about mocking a mother's poverty. What is humorous about comparing children to a dog? Madison looked almost confused by the question. I wasn't mocking poverty, it was banter. That's how people in our social class talk. If Rosa couldn't handle teasing, maybe she wasn't suited to work for a family like ours. Judge Judy's voice became dangerously calm. Your social class, Miss Hartwell. What exactly have you accomplished besides spending your father's money? The question hit Madison like a slap. For a moment, her confidence cracked, then her arrogance came back. With all due respect, Your Honor, my family built this city. We employ hundreds of people. We contribute to the economy. Rosa should have been grateful to work for us. Judge Judy stared at her. Grateful that you insulted her children. Grateful that you fired her for asking to be treated like a human being. I have been on this bench a long time, and your level of self-delusion is remarkable. Madison sat straighter, anger rising in her face. Do you know who my father is? He is Mayor Hartwell. He is a very important man in this city. This lawsuit is embarrassing and a waste of the court's time. The courtroom went dead silent. Everyone knew she had made a serious mistake. Judge Judy's voice turned ice cold. I don't care if your father is the President of the United States. In this courtroom, you are just another defendant. Your last name means nothing. Your father's position means nothing. The only things that matter here are the facts and the law. Madison's face flushed. Then she tried another excuse. Rosa signed a non-disclosure agreement. She had no right to make this public. We have lawyers looking into suing her for defamation and breach of contract. Rosa's attorney spoke for the first time. Your Honor, the NDA was conditional on Ms. Martinez receiving her final paycheck and severance. Since Ms. Hartwell refused to pay her, the agreement is void. Also, Ms. Martinez did not post the video. It was posted by one of Madison's own guests. Madison went pale. That's not the point. Rosa made us look bad. We were going to pay her eventually, but then she went to the media. Judge Judy leaned back. So, let me understand. You fired her, refused to pay her, insulted her children, and now you are upset because people found out. Madison threw her hands up. She should be thanking me. Working for my family was the best job she'll ever have. Now, no one in this city will hire her after what she did to our reputation. That was when someone stood up in the back of the courtroom. A man in his late 50s, expensive suit, salt and pepper hair. A face everyone in the city recognized, Mayor Richard Hartwell. Judge Judy looked toward him. Sir, do you have something to say? The man's voice was firm, but heavy. Yes, Your Honor. I am Richard Hartwell. Madison is my daughter. And I need to address this court about her behavior and my role in creating the person you see today. Madison spun around. Dad, what are you doing here? You said you would handle this. You promised this would go away. Mayor Hartwell walked down the aisle slowly. Every eye followed him. When he reached the front, he turned to Judge Judy. Your Honor, I apologize to this court, to Ms. Martinez, and to everyone who has witnessed my daughter's behavior. What you see here is the result of 24 years of my failure as a father. Madison's voice became desperate. Dad, stop. We talked about this. He looked at her with deep disappointment. Madison, I said I would handle it. This is me handling it. I am done making your problems disappear. Then he turned back to the judge. I have used power and money to protect my family. I have taken shortcuts. I have made mistakes. And yes, the investigators looking into me will probably find what they are searching for. But watching my daughter mock a hard-working mother and compare her children to a dog made me realize what I had created. Madison began to cry. Daddy, please, just write a check, make it go away. Mayor Hartwell's voice hardened. No, I am not writing a check to erase this. I am not making phone calls. I am not protecting you from the truth anymore. The courtroom was silent, he continued. Martinez is the 7th employee my daughter has mistreated. The others accepted money and signed agreements. Their stories disappeared because I made them disappear. But Rosa Martinez had the courage to demand accountability. Judge Judy studied him carefully. Mayor Hartwell, this case is about justice for Ms. Martinez. I understand, he said, and that is why I am asking you not to show Madison any special treatment. Hold her fully accountable. Judge Judy turned back to Madison. Ms. Hartwell, I find in favor of the plaintiff. You owe Rosa Martinez $15,000 in unpaid wages and severance. Madison looked relieved for half a second, then Judge Judy continued. I am not finished. You will also pay $25,000 in punitive damages for emotional distress, wrongful termination, and the deliberate humiliation you caused with your cruel statements." Madison's mouth fell open. $40,000? That's excessive. I didn't physically hurt anyone. It was just words. Judge Judy's response was immediate. Just words? Words have power. Words can destroy dignity. Words can leave wounds that last longer than bruises. You used your words as weapons against a woman who cared for your children while working to support her own. Madison looked stunned. Judge Judy was not done. You will also issue a public apology video. You will explain what you said, why it was wrong, what consequences you faced, and what you are doing to become a better person. That video will stay posted permanently. No excuses, no blaming, no minimizing. Madison's face burned with humiliation. "You can't make me do that. You're trying to embarrass me." Judge Judy's eyes flashed. "You embarrassed Ms. Martinez in front of strangers and millions of people online. What I am requiring is accountability. Consider it your first real lesson in empathy." Then Mayor Hartwell spoke again. "Madison, there is one more consequence. You are cut off." Madison froze. "What?" "No more allowance, no more credit cards, no more car payments, no more living in the mansion. You are 24 years old. It is time you learn that respect is earned, not inherited." Madison broke down completely. "Daddy, you can't do this. I don't know how to live like that. I've never had a job." Her father knelt beside her. "I love you, Madison, but I love you enough to stop destroying your character. I have protected you for too long. Now you need to learn what work, struggle, and responsibility mean." Then he stood and turned to Rosa. "Ms. Martinez, I am sorry. Sorry for what my daughter did, and sorry for the years I enabled the behavior that made her think this was acceptable. You showed more courage standing up to my family than I have shown in years." Rosa stood slowly. "I never wanted revenge," she said. "I only wanted her to understand that every person deserves respect. My children are just as valuable as hers. My work has dignity, and cruelty should have consequences." The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Judge Judy looked at Madison one final time. "You came in here believing your father's name would protect you. You mocked this woman, dismissed her pain, and showed no remorse. You are leaving with a $40,000 judgment, a public apology, and the reality that your father has finally chosen accountability over enabling. Use this moment to decide who you want to become." Then she turned to Rosa, Ms. Martinez. "You showed courage, dignity, and strength. You refused hush money. You stood up to power. You won your case." The gavel came down. "Court is adjourned." Madison sat broken in her chair. Rosa gathered her papers, hugged her attorney, and walked out with her head high. Within hours, the courtroom footage went viral. Millions watched Madison's arrogance collapse. Millions watched Mayor Hartwell choose justice over protection. And millions saw Rosa Martinez prove that dignity cannot be bought, silenced, or erased. 6 months later, Madison was working as a receptionist in a medical office, making $15 an hour, living in a small apartment, and learning what ordinary people had always known. That life is not built by money, it is built by character. Rosa used the judgment money and support from people who followed her story to open the cleaning business she had dreamed about for years. She hired other single mothers, paid them fairly, and treated them with the respect she had once been denied. And her children learned something powerful from their mother. That courage matters, that dignity matters. And that even when powerful people try to crush you, the truth can still stand taller than wealth. Because in that courtroom, Madison Hartwell learned what her father's money never taught her. Your last name does not make you better. Your bank account does not make you untouchable. And cruelty, no matter how expensive the shoes are, still has consequences. That is real justice. That is accountability, and that is what happens when arrogance finally meets the truth.